Button mushroom? The button mushroom is the world's most widely consumed mushroom, accounting for roughly 40% of all cultivated mushrooms. Despite its plain appearance, it's actually the immature form of Agaricus bisporus. If left to grow longer, it becomes a cremini mushroom and eventually matures into the large portobello. French farmers were the first to cultivate button mushrooms commercially in underground quarries near Paris during the 17th century after noticing they naturally thrived in cool, dark caves. Button mushrooms have a mild, slightly earthy flavor and a firm texture that absorbs sauces exceptionally well. Nutritionally, they're low in calories while providing selenium, potassium, and B vitamins. Because they're harvested young, they have a more delicate flavor than their older counterparts, making them one of the most versatile mushrooms in cooking. Cremini mushroom. Cremini mushrooms are simply older button mushrooms, harvested after the cap begins to darken and develop a richer brown color, sometimes marketed as baby bella mushrooms. They're exactly the same species as both button and portobello mushrooms, just picked at a different stage of maturity. Compared to button mushrooms, creminis have a firmer texture and a deeper, earthier taste with subtle nutty notes. They're commonly roasted, sautéed, or added to soups because they hold their shape well during cooking. Nutritionally, they're nearly identical to button mushrooms but contain slightly higher concentrations of antioxidants due to their increased maturity. Portobello mushroom. Portobello mushrooms are fully mature Agaricus bisporus, sometimes reaching over 6 inches across. Although people often think they're a separate species, they're simply cremini mushrooms allowed to continue growing until the cap fully opens. Ironically, the name portobello wasn't widely used until the 1980s, when American mushroom marketers rebranded what had previously been considered oversized, difficult to sell mushrooms. Their large size, dense texture, and naturally savory flavor make them one of the best meat substitutes in the culinary world. Portobellos are especially rich in glutamate, the naturally occurring compound responsible for umami, giving them a satisfying steak-like quality when grilled. Because of their size, they're often served whole as burger substitutes or stuffed with vegetables and cheese. Shiitake mushroom. Native to East Asia, shiitake mushrooms have been cultivated in China and Japan for over 1,000 years. Traditionally, they grew naturally on fallen shi trees, which is where their name comes from. For centuries, shiitake mushrooms were considered both a food and a medicinal ingredient in traditional Chinese and Japanese medicine. Shiitakes are easily recognized by their umbrella-shaped brown caps and rich, smoky aroma. They contain compounds called lentinins, naturally occurring beta-glucans that have been extensively studied for their immune-supporting properties. Their intense umami flavor makes them a staple in ramen, stir-fries, and broths. Dried shiitake mushrooms develop an even more concentrated flavor and are highly prized in Asian cuisine. Oyster mushroom. Oyster mushrooms get their name from their fan-shaped caps, which resemble oyster shells. They naturally grow in overlapping clusters on dead or dying hardwood trees and can be found across North America, Europe, and Asia. Unlike many mushrooms that require carefully controlled growing conditions, oyster mushrooms grow remarkably quickly and can even be cultivated on coffee grounds, straw, cardboard, and other agricultural waste. Their flavor is mild, slightly sweet, and delicate, making them popular in stir-fries and pasta dishes. Their soft texture cooks quickly, making them one of the easiest mushrooms for home cooks to prepare. Enoki mushroom. Enoki mushrooms look dramatically different depending on how they're grown. In nature, they develop dark brown caps with long stems, but the familiar supermarket version is cultivated in complete darkness, producing long white stems with tiny caps as the mushrooms stretch toward non-existent sunlight. Originally native to Japan, Korea, and China, enoki mushrooms have been eaten for centuries, especially popular in hot pots and noodle soups. They have a crisp texture rather than the meatiness associated with most mushrooms, remaining slightly crunchy even after cooking. Their delicate flavor allows them to absorb broths and sauces exceptionally well.
Maitake mushroom. Known as the hen of the woods because its overlapping clusters resemble the feathers of a nesting hen, maitake mushrooms naturally grow at the base of oak trees throughout Japan, China, and North America. Historically, these mushrooms were so highly valued in Japan that people supposedly danced with excitement after finding one in the forest, giving rise to the nickname dancing mushroom. Maitake has a rich, earthy flavor and a tender yet slightly chewy texture. The thin, ruffled edges become wonderfully crispy when roasted, while the thicker stems remain juicy and tender. Lion's mane mushroom. Lion's mane is one of the most unusual looking edible mushrooms in the world. Instead of having a cap and stem, it forms long, cascading white spines that resemble a lion's mane or a waterfall of icicles. It naturally grows on hardwood hardwood trees throughout Asia, Europe, and North America. Unlike most mushrooms, lion's mane has a surprisingly seafood-like flavor that many people compare to crab or lobster. In recent years, it has become especially famous because it contains compounds called hericenones and erinacines, which researchers are studying for their potential role in supporting nerve growth and brain health. While many health claims remain under investigation, lion's mane has become one of the fastest-growing functional foods worldwide. Morel mushroom. Morels are among the most sought-after wild mushrooms on Earth. Their distinctive honeycomb-shaped caps make them instantly recognizable. But unlike cultivated mushrooms, true morels have resisted large-scale commercial farming for decades. Most morels are still hand-foraged every spring from forests across Europe and North America. Their flavor is intensely earthy, nutty, and almost buttery, making them a favorite among professional chefs. Because of their rarity and short growing season, morels can sell for hundreds of dollars per kilogram. However, raw morels contain compounds that can cause digestive problems and must always be thoroughly cooked before eating. Truffle. Despite often being grouped with mushrooms, truffles are actually a completely different type of underground fungus. Rather than growing above ground, they develop beneath the soil around the roots of oak, hazelnut, and beech trees in a symbiotic relationship that can take years to establish. For centuries, truffles were hunted using pigs, whose natural sense of smell could detect them underground. Today, specially trained dogs are preferred because they're less likely to eat the valuable fungi themselves. White Alba truffles from Italy and black Perigord truffles from France are among the most expensive foods in the world, sometimes selling for thousands of dollars per kilogram. Their powerful aroma comes from dozens of volatile compounds that dissipate quickly after harvest, which is why fresh truffles are typically shaved raw over finished dishes rather than cooked.